Hello. This video is about how to use date ranges in Google Analytics. Date ranges allow you to set the range of any report you want and also to compare two separate ranges. It's really pretty easy to use, and you can use them in almost any report that exists in Google Analytics. The date controller exists in the upper right-hand corner of just about every Google Analytics screen. This home screen, for example, which is what you see when you log in for the first time, has it in the upper right-hand corner. And the it's actually like this at just about every other screen you'd be looking at. Now you can see that the default date range is for the last 30 days. Since we did this in April of this year, that's about March 13th, April 13th, 2013. But you can set the range to anything you want to get the proper reporting. So what I want to do now is go to the place where we're going to be looking at most of our reporting in these videos, which is the dashboard. So I'm going to click on the All Website Data for LSA, and then select the AAM Site Widgets dashboard that was shared with me and will be shared with you. So going back up to the date range, if I click on the down arrow, I can see the date range right now is between March and April of 2015. Well, let's say that I wanted to look at some other information, for example, in the February range, because I was curious about the graduate student admissions process. I can basically choose that range in three ways. I can click on 2 days, a start date and an end date, to select the entire date range. So the very first click will be the first date, and then the second click, if it's later on in the month, will be the end date. I can also click on just the month itself. And then if I just click on the month itself, I will get the entire month. Or I can type things in. So in this particular case, I say, no, actually, I really actually do want February. So I type in February 1st, and I go to February 28th, 2015. And notice that the box is red until you put in the proper format, which in this case is the 3-letter abbreviation for the month, a space, the day of the month, a comma, a space, and then the full 4-number year. Click on Apply, and it will reload the data. So in this particular case, we get the information, the dashboards reload, and we can see that all of the numbers have changed to include the month of February. Now, one of the most powerful things you can do with this tool is not just to look at one date range, but to compare across multiple date ranges. So, for example, I know that in February there was an event in the second week, and I want to see whether or not that event was successful, and I want to compare it to the first week in February as a baseline. So I would go ahead and start by looking at the second week of February, and I would say compare to. The default of compare to is the previous period, so basically it would be the same number of days lined up exactly as the previous day. So if you started on the 8th, the previous period would end on the 7th. In this particular case, it's exactly week over week, so that's really good. So I click on Apply. And now I have two pie charts showing each of the ranges and information about new visitors and returning visitors, and then all of the various traffic. And you can see that when there's an opportunity to look at this in a table, you'll see the change in sessions and new sessions. So there was a 43% drop in total sessions from Google for the events section traffic. So if I were doing an event the second week of February, that would suggest that things didn't work out. There wasn't a lot of traffic that month. Now, this works really, really well, but one of the biggest pitfalls in doing these kinds of comparisons is that people won't line up the traffic day over day, but instead we'll look at the data month over month, which can lead to inaccurate reporting. And this can happen for two reasons. The first is pretty basic, and most people don't make this mistake, but it's worth mentioning, which is months are different lengths. The second is that the particular day, there's different levels of traffic on average for different days of the week. So if you don't have the days of the week right, you can have inaccuracy that way too. Let's start with the more obvious one, which is days of the month are different. If I wanted to compare, say, February, and I wanted to compare it to the month of January, so I go February 1st, February 28th, and I compare to January 1st to January 31st. You can see Google will let you do that. It will dutifully do that. The challenge with that is that there are 31 days in January and only 28 in February, so the total amount of traffic is almost certainly going to be lower. Usually in this particular case by as much as 10 to 15%. So one thing you have to do if you want to really compare month over month is make sure that the number of days are the same. And the way that Google does this most easily is they basically have a compared to previous period, so they just take the total number of days and make sure that the previous period has exactly the same number of days ending right before the beginning of the first period. Now in this particular case, since February starts on Sunday, this is okay. But let's say that we wanted to look at the entire month of January and we wanted to compare it to the previous period of December. Even though they both have 31 days in them, January starts on a Thursday and December starts on a Monday. Well, that creates another interesting problem. I'm going to show you that in a second. So we have these numbers out here, but if we look at, I want to click on the audience report. If you look at the line chart, we see something really interesting, which is that the wave patterns of the various days don't line up. To put it another way, traffic, generally speaking, on most websites peaks on Monday or Tuesday and then slowly declines over the week and usually bottoms out on Saturday and Sunday. So, people are at home with their kids or they're off doing other things. They're not actually going to academic websites. And then on Monday, they start their day again and they start going back to the website. So if we don't have the days lined up, we actually can get a big discrepancy just from the fact that we're comparing a 31-day period that started on a Wednesday, and therefore we missed a Monday, as opposed to a 31-day period that started on a Friday or on a Saturday or a Sunday. The best way to deal with this is to basically do month-over-month comparisons where you make sure the same day, it starts on the same day of the week. So in this particular case, I might say I want to basically get everything from the first Sunday of every month, which is the easiest way to do this. You start from January 4th to go to January 31st, and then you compare to December 7th, which is the first day of that month, until the third day of January. So what we did here is if we wanted a 28-day period, we actually did have to go all the way through to January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Unless there are major events that are dependent on the beginning of the calendar month, this is probably okay. If you really, really need to have it not go over a calendar month break, we could actually just do a 3-week period. And we could compare that to December 7th to December 27th. Apply that. And there it goes. It lines up. In this particular case, there's less traffic on December 8th and December 9th, but you can see that the sawtooth pattern otherwise stays about the same. So that is how we use date ranges. If you're looking at things more like across a quarter or a year, this is much less of a problem. Basically, at that point, the variance washes out, even if the difference in a particular day of the week you start doesn't happen. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you can always talk to web services or come into one of the open labs, at which point they will answer all the questions that you have about this or any other aspect of Google.